How are things in California?
Oh no, it's not. Well, I'm north of California in Seattle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
Very good.
We're just in the same.
Um,
We're in the same time zone.
yes, yes, of
Yeah,
course. Oh, I'd love to go to Seattle someday. Looks like a great
it's
city.
nice. I think you'd like it.
Yeah,
It's got a lot of the same climate and temperament as your neck of the woods.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Lots of rain, I
yeah.
guess, in other words.
It's we hear that a lot, and actually last year we did get a lot of rain. It's not that it rains all the time; it threatens to rain all the time. It's we have like there's this place just south of here. I think it gets 220 overcast days a year. So it's
Wow.
great for the skin, but good luck getting a tan.
Okay, brilliant. Well, listen, thanks for joining us on this. This is obviously a pre-record.
Oh yeah.
Um, this is a report that will be going out early next week,
Okay.
just about trying to understand some of the theories behind the flat Earth community.
Sure.
So I just have a few questions that I want to focus on,
Yeah.
just to get it clear, because I've been really enjoying watching your videos. They're so clearly laid out and so well written.
Well, thanks.
So that's been really helpful. But I just want to get a little bit of clarity on a couple of things.
Yeah.
Um, First of all, why is NASA enemy number one for flat earthers? What is the conspiracy there?
NASA's the biggest target. I mean, they have the biggest, obviously, big bullseye on their back because they're the most public. They are the default frontmen of science. When you look over here, I don't know what you have over there in terms of like, over here, our news is divided into categories, politics and business and sports and entertainment. And there's always a science section over here. And in that science section, a collection of science stories on any given day or any given week, NASA probably takes up at least a third to a half of them. Always, all the time. Whatever's NASA's doing, the cutting edge of science has to be NASA. And so, and because we think everything that NASA has done since they were created in 1958 is fake, is a lie, then again, that's why we focus on them, and they're pretty easy to tear down because they have a lot of footage for different things. Some things they have no footage on at all. Like the blue marble from space. They only took 2 shots in 43 years. But then they release all
Okay,
this.
so just let's be really specific then. So when you
Yeah.
say that everything that NASA has done is fake,
Yeah.
what is their intention? What are they trying to make the world believe something, or
Well,
what do you believe about that?
yeah. So when I say that everything, okay, why would NASA fake this? And remember, NASA is just the front men for the powers that be, for lack of a better term, the people that don't care about bank accounts and the people that want to rework civilization as we know it. But as far as why NASA would fake it, and by that I'm going to be going to different places, but what I also have to clarify is that 99% of the people in NASA are just doing their jobs.
Sure.
They don't know anything. They're just compartmentalized. I mean, people that build fuel systems and people that mop the floors and people that do HR and all that. Almost nobody knows anything about anything. Compartmentalization is brilliant there because they are a military operation. But why you would fake it? In fact, the easiest answer is probably to compare it to the my argument for the moon missions way back before flat Earth. People over here. I don't. Again, I still am amazed why outside of America people believe in the American space program, and the answer is always the same. Well, because it was on television, it was on the news. It has to be real. But over here, we've been criticizing it literally since they've stopped doing it. In the last moon mission here was in 1972, which is a long time ago, and we started tearing it apart back then. And I always thought that it's like, okay, and everyone tried to come up with reasons for why. It's like, why fake the space program? Why fake the space program? And for the longest time, for decades, it was, well, because it's a patriotic thing. It's America's got to be the greatest. We've got to put this image out there. Rah rah, wave the flag, go team, red, white, and blue. And I thought, yeah, it's a good answer, but it's not a great answer. I mean, it's okay. It'll pass. but it's not great. And then when I got into flat Earth, then I understood. That's when it's like, okay, it's not that you wanted to fake the moon missions. You had to fake the moon missions. You had to fake space, because if you don't, eventually the private companies will get involved, and you can't have that. You've got to control space. You've got to militarize space for as long.
Why isn't it possible for why isn't it possible for the Earth to be flat and also for there to be space? Can the two not coexist?
Well,
the two ideas?
They can, but why do it? Meaning, if 90, that's a great question. Why do you have to have both? Meaning, if 99% of the people believe in the illusion, that's what you go with. And I'm not trying to look. I grew up in an evangelical Christian home. It's not that I'm saying that because we didn't. Also, let me clarify that we had no part in building this place at all. We had, people keep saying, "Oh, did we build it?" No, and I'm saying really either it's the creator that built it or an older civilization that's much more powerful than ourselves. And because people say, "Are you calling God lazy? Are you saying that God didn't make space?" I go, "Well, no, God's very, very efficient. So why would he have to make space?" The planetarium example, which is great, which is you go into a planetarium and you look up and you say, "Oh, there's Jupiter, the moons of Jupiter. Can you land on it?" No, you can't. Does it look spherical? Yes, it does. Can you take pictures of it? Yes, you can. You don't have to have space. Why? What if the person that's living in this world will never make it to another body, planetary body, even with our best technology, the moon excluded, because that's just a lie, then you don't have to. There doesn't have to be space. Why do it? It's just pretty lights in the sky, and fine, you can zoom in on them. Great resolution. But it just doesn't have to be there.
So the stars, then, they are kind of luminaries.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
Created by NASA, the stars?
No. The stars, everything in the sky. I love the sky system. In fact, in the software world where I came from, it's literally called the sky box system, which is everything in the sky that you see, everything from planets to stars to deep space objects, whatever you can zoom in on, is just really an elaborate, ornate clock system which predates language. That's all it is. It's a clock that it's not just minutes and hours. You can do your crops based on the stars, and they did back in the day, and it didn't matter where you were from. Everyone, if you stared at the sky long enough, and back then that's really the only thing you had to stare at, you could figure it out. And once you figured out kind of how the clock system worked, you could start planning your days and years based on it. So
now, one of the things I'm interested in, and I wonder, can you explain this for our audience, Mark, is the way commercial flights happen in the Southern Hemisphere. Can you tell me a bit about that? Because that is very revealing, isn't it?
Yeah, that was one of those things, and that was given to me by a guy. That hint was given to a guy over in your neck of the woods back in 2015, where he was going, look at the long haul flights. He goes, they don't make any sense. And for your listeners that don't know what a long haul flight is, it's any flight that's really over, I don't know, 12, 13 hours, long flights. And what we were noticing was, the first thing I noticed was in the Southern Hemisphere, any flights that happen between those continents down there, like if you're flying from South America to Africa or Australia or New Zealand, or say anything below the equator, if we're talking about a globe, then you should expect flights to go a certain way, a certain route, normally over the South Pacific Ocean or the Indian Ocean or the Southern Atlantic Ocean. And what was interesting was, because they're still out there, you can look up Flight Tracker. There's some wonderful live, and I know there's a delay for security reasons, but it works for the most part. And I was watching these planes leave wherever in the Southern Hemisphere, going to, from Southern Hemisphere to Southern Hemisphere. So you can't, don't say, from South America to North America. That's different. We want to track what's happening down below the equator. And when they got about 150 miles offshore, maybe 200 miles, as long as there was no other island with a ground radar station near them, those planes would blink out. And even if the graphic was there, what was happened was the latitude and longitude coordinates would disappear and go into approximated or estimated mode. And I thought it was fascinating. And in fact, in some of the software, I don't know if it's changed. And I mean, some people have said, well, the graphic's still there now. It's like, whatever. But back then I was looking at it and the plane would disappear, just gone.
But why did the flights have to go up to the northern hemisphere before they get to another location in the south?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? It's because in a lot, again, we're covering a lot of ground. But if you just pretend to book a flight from like anywhere in South America to anywhere in Africa or Australia, like 90%, 95% of the flights in the Southern Hemisphere are not direct. They connect through the Northern Hemisphere. And it's just bizarre to watch because if you're looking on a globe, these flights take these weird high arcs, like sometimes doubling the distance and more. I mean, I saw connecting double and triple connection flights that would take upwards of 40-something hours to make their route.
Why are they doing that?
Well, because it's not a globe. On a flat model, that's the only way it works. And I initially, I didn't discover it. I was just really confirming it, which was if you take the flights, the Southern Hemisphere flights, and you overlay them onto a flat model, which is known as the AE map, which is known as the azimuthal equidistant map. I know it's a little bit of a mouthful, but you can look it up, which is basically the UN flag, by the way. When you look at it, those high arc angles turn into shallow doglegs and sometimes straight lines. And it's the shortest distance between 2 points. Now, is it a perfect model? No. Are there questions about some of the flights? Yes, absolutely. But it's fascinating. Again, if you look at connecting flights, and I know it's tough to do on radio to describe it, but you can look it up yourself, and we have some wonderful videos on it, where the flights just turn into these. It makes sense. Or the emergency flights. Those are even better if you've ever heard of those.
There are no flights. There's no flights from. Sorry, there's very few.
Very
flights.
few. Well, and again, that's and I made.
There is one flight, but there is one flight from Santiago in Chile to Sydney in Australia that's operated by Qantas.
Yep, Qantas.
So why would they do that?
Well,
that's a long distance. Why wouldn't they? If the Earth is flat, why wouldn't they just go up across the North Pole?
Yeah, it's a great question. In fact, it was interesting that because when I was doing it, there's only so much research I could do back in 2015. But sure. When I did the initial Clue 7, and I said, look, I can't find any freaking direct flights. And then people said, well, there's this just a handful. And it really bothered me that nobody was looking at the fact that 90-something% of the flights in the Southern Hemisphere were double and triple connections. They were focusing on things like, I think there were maybe 5 tops. And
yeah, it's mind-blowing.
It was
really
mind-blowing
is when you look at it.
Yeah, and in fact, there was one of my subject matter experts was a travel advisor down in the Southern Hemisphere, and she contacted me and she goes, you have no idea how difficult it is to fly people down here. She goes, in the Northern Hemisphere, it's just a question of time. It's like, oh yeah, when can we get on our flight? You can get direct flights all the time. She goes, there are capital cities in the Southern Hemisphere which you cannot get direct flights to, no matter how much money you have. You can't. Crazy. Yeah, it just blows my mind. So
now I wish I could speak for longer, but I'm under time pressure, so I want to get to a couple of other questions with you, Mark. Has there ever been a mission to find the edge of the world? Is that even possible?
Well, not for lack of trying. The desire is there. We'd love to do it. In fact, there have been television producers that have been talking to us the last 5 years that have said, oh yeah, we got to do a thing in Antarctica. I go, great. Look at the Antarctic Treaty and tell me how you pull that thing off. Because that was one of the big kickers for me. In fact, that was my push over the line thing, because the Antarctic Treaty, which was ratified in 1959, right after NASA was founded and right after the Van Allen radiation belts were announced, and the Antarctic Treaty says that no corporation, this includes expedition stuff, but no corporation can set up shop down in Antarctica ever. No one can own any part of Antarctica. I mean, yes, it's divided up into a whole bunch of different things, but it's locked down for all time. It's not even up for review until 2041. And
so what you're saying is because it's locked down, that means that it's almost impossible for anyone to try and get near the edge.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The 60th parallel down there is the limit. They even expanded it at one point. In fact, right after we started making videos, they expanded it to where you can't even drones now are forbidden on the Antarctic ice. I thought that was just hilarious. It's like, really, you're going to ban drones to a year and a half after we get in there, amend the treaty? But yeah.
What about the mission by the British Antarctic Survey in 1958 or the late 1950s? That was the first time that apparently a transcontinental trip was undertaken in Antarctica, and the team went from one side to the other.
Yeah, if you look at the map closely, when you look at it, they didn't really cross it. All they did, and everyone mentions these from time to time, which is they say they crossed this little sliver, and they say, oh yeah, we crossed it. No, I'm sorry.
But that was well documented by National Geographic. Or do you think National Geographic, are they in on the conspiracy?
National Geographic, who interviewed me at some point a couple of years ago, they hate us. They do not like that. Well, again, remember, National Geographic is founded on the backbone of science. They are the periodical of science. That's them. And when we did, I know you're limited on time, but really, really quick, we did a salt and sea experiment with them in California, where we were shooting across just 9 miles, a visual test, 9 miles across this salt lake type thing. And we saw their test balloons when it shouldn't have been possible. And they were so upset by this, they removed the segment entirely from the.
But who are they? Why would they be part of the conspiracy? Why are they not?
Well, again,
are they not independent?
It's not that they're not getting their marching orders from the powers that be directly. However, it is in their best interest to keep the integrity of science at all times. They will always paint. I mean, like when they were trying to get me to yell and say bad things about our astronauts, the American astronauts, and I think they cut that part out of the interview.
That's not fair.
Yeah. They want to keep, they want science to be completely rock solid all the time. Science, Neil deGrasse Tyson's line, science is true whether or not you believe in it. One of the most arrogant things I've ever heard. And that's what they do. Again, it's not that they're, wearing a black hat and twirling a mustache and being all evil. It's that, look, they're protecting their own interests. And the National Geographic's been around since the 1800s. So they're not going anywhere. They are not going to back down. Their audience would be.
Are there any scientists, any professional, well-regarded scientists who are part of the community of flat earthers?
No, and that's a great question. No, you can't. You can't be a scientist and be part of the flat earth community. Mostly.
Why? Why not?
Well. And I know a number of academics, and they've all told me the same thing. It's like once you reach a master's level or higher, and especially if you get into PhD, all you care about is your community, your academic community, and being published. The scariest word in the world for an academic is ostracized, which means if you make the community look bad in any capacity, it's very cliquish, very high school. They will push you out of that group and say, yeah, you don't get to talk to us anymore. And that is a death sentence for an academic.
So it's virtually impossible for a scientist to to believe in, or not to believe, but to
admit it. Yeah, no, they can't. They can't. If they did,
but they might believe in the flat Earth, but
sure.
They can't admit it.
Oh no, oh hell, there was a great Asian when I was being roped in for an interview down in Los Angeles, and they were looking for a physicist to go against me. And I remember they told me this off air. They called up USC, University of Southern California, and there was an Asian professor, and he goes, oh wow, flat Earth. He goes, yeah, I'd love to talk about that. It's like, okay, you're going to be going against Mark Sargent. It's like, going against flat Earth? No, I'm all for it. And it's like, did you get this guy's name? And of course, even if I did pin him down, it'd be very, very tough to do. I mean, hell, real quick, there was a structural engineer, not even a scientist, structural engineer certified, who tried to he was going to be the co-promoter of the first conference, and there was an ethics board. He was ratted out by somebody, and an ethics board contacted him and said, you have to distance yourself as fast as possible or we will pull your license, we will pull your certification. That's exactly what he did.
Okay,
so
I'm interested, just briefly, Mark, Do flat earthers tend to be evangelical Christian and believe in creationism?
Yes. At least half the community, funny question, at least half the community are hardcore Christians. At least half, and maybe even more. So much so that when the first conference was done from the documentary, there was backlash. Half the people wanted it to be more religious. Half the people wanted it to be less religious. So in the future conferences, we ended up having two stages, one biblical and one not. And the reason why the biblical cosmology people really latched onto this, one of the main reasons was a guy named Rob Skiba, who went through the King James Bible with a fine-tooth comb. And he said, yeah, he goes, it's a flat earth book. There's only one verse in the entire book that even hints that it's not, and that's Isaiah 40:22. He who sitteth upon the circle of the earth. And he was really quick to point out, he goes, look, circle is not sphere, it's not ball, it's not globe in the ancient Hebrew. So it's, because the rest of it though, he goes, there's so many different flat earth references in it. He goes, he dedicated a website to it called testingtheglobe.com, which I still, to this day, it's like, yeah, he goes, you want to look at the religious side of things, look at that. It's amazing. And it's now considered, there are Christian flat earth conferences, or at least there were before the whole lockdown thing. Here in the United States. In fact, I was not invited to the Flat Earth Christian conferences because I wasn't evangelical enough. Funny thing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
My other question is, oh yeah, yeah. What is the dome?
The dome. Oh, okay. That's a great one. We probably should have opened with this, which is the flat Earth model.
Yeah,
well, no, that's right. I didn't even occur to me, because a lot of people say, "What does the flat Earth look like?" I mean, it sounds like you've been into it long enough that you know. But
I think that's a really good point, actually, Mark. If you can paint a picture for us, just so that I can try and get my listeners to understand. What does it look like?
What does it look like? So it's the opposite of what you've been told. You're not living on some little tiny rock flying through space at impossible speeds and impossible directions, covered in a little bit of water, covered with a little bit of smoke, basically, on top of that, or a thin version of, or just vapor, basically, because we're not breathing in nothing. You are living in, for lack of a better term, a building. A giant snow globe, if that's what works for you, with walls and a floor and a ceiling that is so big and so complex that even our best and brightest didn't figure it out until almost 1960. And when they did, they were like, yeah, we probably shouldn't tell anybody about this until we figure out what the hell's going on. Because civilization had already been built in 1960. And people's like, why not tell everybody? It's like, are you crazy? I wouldn't tell anybody in 1960. We saw what happened with Roswell in the United States, and the media was, people were freaking out. And that was in the 40s. That was like 12 years earlier. So, but yeah, you're living in a building. And the sun and the moon.
So what you're saying is that in 1960, the U.S. government discovered properly that the Earth is flat, and they decided to keep it a secret.
Yeah, the United States and the Soviet Union, and mostly from the explorations in Antarctica that started in 1928 and really peaked out in 1955-56 with Operation Deep Freeze. Again, not secret information. That's the best part of Flat Earth. None of this stuff is secret, declassified crap. It's all out there.
So continue with your image. This is a flat disc.
It's a flat disc, and don't think of it even in space. This is not Asgard, right? The Thor movies did us no favors at all. There's no cosmic waterfall. We're talking about just a building. It might as well be a snow globe sitting on a desk, God's desk. How's that? And the sun and the moon are inside it. The dome may be, I don't know, best guess, let's say 3,000 miles high. More than high enough for what we need. The sun and the moon are very, very tiny and are inside it. So the sun is not 93 million miles away. The moon is not 237,000 miles away. They are very, very small and less than 50 miles wide, and they're very, very close. Less than 3,000 miles high, which works out just the same, actually. And
then on the edge?
Oh yeah, and on the edge, you have and all the continents basically look the same except for Antarctica. So again, if you want to know what it looks like, look at the UN flag. Really, really weird. designed in the 40s. And around the only thing that's different is Antarctica. Antarctica is not an island continent like Australia, roughly the same size. It stretches around the entire outer rim of this thing, and it is huge. It's freaking huge. The coastline of Antarctica is not the edge of the world. It is the beginning of the edge of the world. It goes in, it's got to be thousands of miles. I mean, they were flying around it for 30 years before they figured it out. Who knows how many refueling stations they had. And it circles around.
On the other side of Antarctica?
Well, that's the big question.
What happens then?
Well, eventually you're going to have to reach the barrier, the edge of the dome, which is what I think they eventually found in 1955, 56, the Americans very least, where that's where you can't go any further. Some sort of barrier, whatever it's made out of, I don't know, high frequency, electromagnetic, heavy element, heavy water, doesn't really matter, but they tried to punch through it for 4 years, the United States and the Soviet Union, who have been allies for a long time at the high levels. We're not that much of enemies. But they tried to bust through it with atomic weapons from 1958 until 1962. And when they couldn't get through it, they just basically were mapping out the sky. They were firing, all the atomic tests for those 4 years were straight up. And they were just basically mapping the sky. And so what's outside of this world? What's outside of that? I try to only live one world at a time. I think it's an unlimited dimension, an unlimited world, where this world is 99% conflict, outside 99% no conflict.
Excellent. Okay, that's really, really good stuff.
Oh, good.
Mark, thank you so much for answering my questions. I really appreciate it.
No. Hey, I don't know if you guys... I caught some of your shows because I was looking at one of those world things where you can go to different countries and see what active radio stations there were, and I've heard some of your stuff. I like your format.
Brilliant, that's great. Thank you. Well, if you like, I can send you the podcast of this report.
Please, yeah, that'd be
next week.
Be lovely.
There'll be lots of other voices on it as well,
okay.
But yours will be featured prominently, and yeah, I'll send that to you, and we can keep in touch.
Cool. Thank you, man. If there's any other resources, just let me know, and I'll shoot them to you.
I will. Thank you so much, Mark. Have a good day.
All right, you too.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.